You know, Dustin, it's funny. I got these 2 coins that say Uncle Sam I am. And then dead to me, solar panels is right up the road. How am I going to make all these fuckers kill everybody?
I have no idea, man. These switches?
Well, you know, I haven't thought about a war.
Switches can kill somebody very quickly.
I haven't thought about solar panels at a war pressure all morning. Could you believe it?
You know how only one contact.
Just the one thing I never would. Could you grab me the quarter on the floor? We dropped them while I was talking to you.
Yeah, no. I was supposed to say.
We definitely. Yeah, it's on the $60 ticket.
$60 ticket?
It's on the $60 ticket.
Oh shit! There it is. There you go, buddy.
You look like I'm guessing. Yes, the one thing.
Oh, he needs a refund?
You know the date?
You just give him the money, dude.
You know the date? The date?
The date? Today is
13th of
April.
April 13th. No, he's not coming. No, he's not coming. Panel. And I go to switch it, and everybody wants to fight. Couldn't believe it. Maybe it was the can doing the talking. non-major. You worried you're gonna blow a fuse or something? And it's funny, I got this coin that says Sam I am. And it's funny, right up the road, designated solar panel. That's quite interesting. Metric state. Maybe the can was doing the talking. Well, that's a pretty cool looking clover, but it's going to totally destroy everything I got going already. How about that, a beef stick upgrade? It's me, your baby boy. It's a cheese wrapper. Let's see what's under the no stone unturned. Nothing, probably. What do you know? There's a stick with a mushroom growing out of the side of it. Oh, there's more wrapper. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll take that general and I'll just fuck him like so. Haha. And I was thinking about it. I saw this stump here, and I was thinking about that general. And right over here is like this wannabe ashtray, not quite a planter sort of situation. And I figured maybe I should just grab that, because I mean maybe it'll help backdate the balloon. Whatever. Bag of dirt, stick a tree in there, and call it a day. There's some red gloves. In they go. see it through, guy. I like this. I like this a lot. We're gonna see it through, guy. Papa. And this won't make any sense either, but I'll just say, aha! Motherfucker's in for a rude awakening then. I know what you're thinking. I took care of it. That's right, I did. I don't look too horrible today. It's funny, it's right up the road. It's dead to me, it's solar panels. Man, is that interesting. It's a European metric steak. Maybe the can was doing the talking. Well, that's a pretty cool looking clover, but it's gonna totally destroy everything I got going already. upgrade. It's me, your baby boy. It's a cheese wrapper. Let's see what's under the no stone unturned. Nothing, probably. What do you know? There's a stick with a mushroom growing out of the side of it. Well, there's more wrapper. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll take that general and I'll just fuck him like so. I saw this stuff here and I was thinking about that general, and then right over here is like this wannabe ashtray, not quite a planner sort of situation, and I figured maybe I should just grab that, because I mean maybe it'll help backdate the balloon. So I'll get another bag of dirt and stick a tree in there and call it a day. Here's some red gloves. In they go. Probably just me congratulating myself ahead of time, because way to see it through, guy. I like this a lot. Way to see it through, guy. Ba-ba. And this won't make any sense either, but I'll just say, aha, motherfucker's in for a rude awakening then. I know what you're thinking. I took care of it. That's right, I did. I don't look too horrible today. Mind you, I am probably only equipped to tolerate that because I am up everything, and it's only because I did all that wild stuff myself. I didn't just like get handed a portfolio that says like, here's all the stuff that matters, kinda. That clearly isn't what happened. Everybody definitely made a triumph and spun the rotary wheel. with trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions, and it was basically up to chance and blind luck, and who could ever put the magic what is it, the magic 8-ball from Humpty Dumpty back together again. Just spun the wheel. No, I was all the way up, and then was this, and I was gonna make a comment before about something, but I'm not going to. So I think I don't want to go the way I'm going right now. I think I need to make a giant U-turn in my life. That's what I'm gonna do, make a giant U-turn. One big U-turn. The U-turn was at the Band-Aid intersection, so it was kind of melodramatic. If you're keeping up with my vlog. Or my DT log. If you're keeping up with my DT log, the mega huge U-turn at a pinnacle point in my life took place at the Band-Aid epicenter. You wish you could make this up. So I think about this, I say, okay, it's possible somebody makes a ginormous, mega, epic U-turn of a thing at the Band-Aid epicenter at 11:19 through 11:20 on the 13th of April. That's what they're going to do. They're going to make a ginormous, epic, mega, huge decision and pull a U-turn. They're going to pull a U-turn at the Band-Aid epicenter in the middle of their DTV log. That's kind of prolific, I must say. I was thinking just a little bit ago when I was rummaging around a limousine and I was looking at some stuff, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, well, I took care of the planet. Now here I am just kind of adventuring, and I'm thinking about everybody, and I'm like, okay, maybe even if I do these things and they all look corruptible and horrible and like negligent and all these things, maybe they could say that they were at least trying to do their best, from a safe distance or something like that. Right, all right. So maybe they were all doing their best at a safe distance, and I'm like, what are you really worried about? Like, what's really threatening you? And at the mega huge epic decision to make a U-turn at the VDT log at the Band-Aid epicenter, it's a little different of a picture because who's really holding out for the possibility that somebody makes a huge epic U-turn at the Band-Aid epicenter in the middle of their DT log after being all the way up and taking care of the planet? Who's really holding on to that? So somebody says, yeah, well, we did our best. Meanwhile, they probably don't really know who's hanging on to that. And then, like, does the force that's hanging on to that, doesn't there have to be a force that's hanging on to that? How could you not have a force that's hanging on to the mega epic prolific U-turn at the Band-Aid epicenter? I mean, it was a pretty big U-turn. I was like the whole way in the middle of the intersection, and I mean, it was like a 200 and maybe a 310 degree turn. It was big. It was a big U-turn. I wasn't like in all the lanes, but it was pretty big. Anyway, so I'd get to like one hand washes the other or something. But like not in like a derogatory sense. Like, I gotta prop these things, right? Somebody's gotta think about this and say, well, since you're not all killing everyone, and since you're not like the least, uncorruptible forces in space, and you're not the most sinister and evil forces of all time, clearly I'd be able to say this about somebody near to these events. Like, there'd be somebody near to these things, I'd be like, yeah, I see you. You isn't the most evil thing of all time, clearly. I have to prop this because, like, if anything were like trying to navigate like near to these things and like explain them or talk about it or like provide commentary, like, yeah, that's a considerable thing. It's worth considering. Maybe just the U-turn's worth considering. Maybe the thought about everybody doing their best is just considering. Maybe the gloves in the motherfucker who's gonna get a rude awakening's worth considering. Maybe any of these things are worth considering, but like in the bigger picture, which is maybe the smallest picture, to shoot myself in the foot, yeah, I have to look at somebody from a distance and say, okay, you're semi-trustworthy to like be a party to these gravities, and like maybe if push came to shove, you were doing your best to like allocate or route or like provide scenario opting or like oversight or something. Like, this has to be propped. And then on the other hand, like, maybe I get like pneumonia, which is maybe like incredibly probable at the consideration and concernment. Maybe I get pneumonia. I'm just moaning about all this new ethic that's happening. I can't get my wits together because there's all this positivity of investment to survive happening. What the fuck? So I get pneumonia. So I've got to prop pneumonia oncology stat kind of near it, and it's like probably not even logical, probably not even capable of providing commentary, but like maybe it can like push some buttons and like kick somebody in the tail or something if they're like trying to like, I don't know, crash a server or something. But like, so I get pneumonia. I'll end up having pneumonia. One hand washes the other, but I have to prop this because there's got to be I can't just be leaving it to fall off like a cliff. And so I get these logical buttons I had to set at pneumonia, and I got to prop the family, and then I got to say, okay, wait a second. What about the forces that are looking at for like the Band-Aid? Like, there's always maybe this potential. It's possible there's this prolific U-turn at Band-Aid. Like, whatever it means, whatever like cool it is, whatever like important thing that could ever like, oh wow, that's really inspiring, or like dude, I never like really respected that like things get held on to that like need to stick, but like we're not even talking about the Band-Aid, we're just talking about like the vision of the Band-Aid. Like how hard is it to get somebody to look at a Band-Aid correctly, right? And then I gotta prop containers for this, and it, you know, consider that portion, all those dynamics. But like, I'm gonna sit back. I isn't gonna have pneumonia clearly, and like, bang, there's the U-turn, and then there's the we did our best, and then there's like, is it all the way up? And then like, who's pushing the buttons because of the pneumonia section? I gotta sit back and like try and freaking look at that, because it's all propped. It has to be propped. And it also has to be like hands off, because like, no dude, you can't have my Band-Aid. No man, you can't be like hanging on to my Band-Aids everywhere I'm gonna need them. Like, they're my Band-Aids too. You need to have your Band-Aids, I need to have my Band-Aids. It isn't prolific because I say so, it is just the way it is. But I gotta look at all that without having pneumonia. And like, what are we even collecting? Are we collecting dust with a Band-Aid? Or are we like gonna regret it with a Band-Aid? And like, how many of our kids are walking around with prolific pneumonia about a Band-Aid? I mean, maybe none of them. It's got to be none of them. But like, we can't push it. You just like, it's probably just it goes without saying. It goes without saying. So the parents, we're gonna walk around with some goes without saying ethic, and know we did our best, and we couldn't be any more innocent to not being able to sit back and see where somebody propped these things. Because I mean, looking at the facts of like these types of props, all the way up just a Band-Aid, doing our best at an innocence, this can't be real. Like, I'm gonna sit back and look at the props and see at angles. When I'm seeing that stuff, I isn't real. Nobody believes that I'm real. It isn't that I isn't real. It's like, whatever I see, I got like a conscience behind me, because it's going to be propped there too, like a pneumonia section. And it's just going to be like, whatever you're seeing, whatever purity or integrity or innocence you're having to like see at those props, it isn't real. It just isn't real. It's all the way up at Band-Aid, for crying out loud. It goes without saying. One hand washes the other. It's unbelievable. But when I sit there, I might be pivotal. I might be wielding the salvation of everybody, man. And I might just be like, dude, wear your seatbelt. Keep that in mind. Don't make my mistake. You know, you gotta choose wisely. There might be some adage, there might be some lesson, there might be some important thing that can be shared or shed, and that might make a difference to everybody. It literally, like, I'm not invisible and non-existent because I look from those optings, but like, immediately, I isn't real. And maybe that's a valuable lesson, because if I try and sit from a prop like that, and you know, maybe I try and go, I don't know, incorporate, like, here I sit at Band-Aid, and I'm going to go incorporate my attitude about it. Like, forget economics, forget, like, prudence, forget, like, omnipotent passivity. You can forget all that, because I'm just going to take my Band-Aid experience and, like, go turn the world into the world that it's like, whatever is going to become because of that experience. So I can't be real. But it isn't pneumonia. Now, I could have a mild case of something like a pneumonia, maybe rigidity or Parkinson's or something, because I doesn't appreciate the realness that I'm not like exuding because of that experience. So like, it might be a very valuable lesson that, like, you know, if you ever have to look at something like that from there, maybe it's wise that it's like, okay, like, I'm important, this is crucial, this might be nothing, it could be something, like, maybe it's no big deal, but like, whatever I am, like, I doesn't need to inflate it. I doesn't need to make it into something that it's not. I doesn't need to get kudos or a million brownie points for it. Like, I'm cared about because I do the right thing. I make choices and influence because I'm working on important stuff, okay? That's why I'm doing it. That's why I care about it, type of thing. That's real. But like, as you're in that position, at some types of things, like, there are times whenever there's going to be something looking at you that probably can't talk, can't explain, can't determine any number of things, and it just knows. When you're considering a certain thing for a certain reason at a certain pressure, you just can't be real with it. You just can't be real with it. And like, I don't know what else to say about it, because like, there has to be something like that whenever you get to those types of places in reality, in the actual, in surviving. And it's like, this whole dimension of like saying like, okay, or we're not okay with that, like, who knows how many cases of pneumonia or band-aids or symptoms or hand washings might ever attempt to be occurring and something like that. But you're talking about everywhere at the reality. Like, maybe it impacts yourself, maybe it impacts your life or someone near to you, but like, it is everywhere when that type of thing is happening. So it's like, maybe there's something that can't talk or can't explain or can't correct or do any number of things, doesn't have buttons, and it sees and it just says to itself, there's no way you're real at this pressure. There's just no way. It's not that you like it, like, you're there, it's real, but like, it just knows there's no way you're real to this. Like, who knows how many courses a facet of interpretive pneumonia oncology provides to everywhere. And the fact of the matter is, you're seeing time, you're learning lessons, you're taking a look at your heritage or cultural survival ethic or planes of treating one another. The facet of the oncological specificity, whatever the math is, whatever the colors or the glass or the frame of it is, that didn't build space. That didn't bring you to life. That didn't like make any number of decisions about planes of time. But it is crucial. What I'm saying is, it'd really be something to look at an argument about that. Someone saying, well, we had all these props of position at pneumonia for oncological realities because of placement and respects. Okay, it's all very important. Learning and matriculating idea to concept, respect, and like even seeing in some of these things makes all the difference to the world. Might make all the difference to a mentality, or even the ability to hop into a perspective and be counted on in times to provide some oversight. These things, they're crucial, okay? But all of these realities of the design, the frame, the math, the color, the frame, it's not an excuse for why things are traveling down the funnel. Really. It's not an excuse for why maybe there's ignorance to things at times. It's not an excuse for why there's buffer that is unnecessary at times, and yet they're fine lines. I mean, you have to look at it, you'd have to see it, you'd have to be about it, you'd have to care about it, you'd have to invest to care about it, and you'd also have to be protected. To care about stuff like that and preserve it, you have to be already protected. Somebody's got to have your back. Somebody's got to care about the decisions that you're trying to make. Somebody's got to keep the world away or out or kept from copying or stealing in some of the things that you're seeing or doing. There's got to be a lot of basiture of protection for these types of connections. And it's interesting because there's probably, let's just say, a million bajillion kiloton kilowatts of protection per second per country at ideas, at structure, at top level like that. There's a million bajillion kiloton kilowatt amounts of protection per second. All of that protection isn't the force that says, I know you isn't real, because you're there. It's a different dynamic. It isn't the force that says, let's look at the argument about significance of impact of specificity. The protection maybe isn't that. Maybe there are facets and frames and people that might be there to be a part of that, but that isn't what I'm talking about. The guarantees of routing of the spectrum of the protection, so that like from 1 minute to the next minute, hour by hour, as events are unfolding, there are consistencies in guarantees of engineering, so that at specificities of pulsation, some things are revisitable because it's guaranteed, because it's seeable. That's a protection. That's all consistency. What I'm saying is, all those consistencies, all those meritoses and marriages of insight, who knows how many feelings and dependencies and devotions to possibility to see there are because of framing of those protections. Meanwhile, any number of devotions, or I count on the system routing relative to failure rates I know about because maybe I'm an expert, or maybe I'm insightful, or maybe I capitalize on the system, or maybe I like to see it from multiple angles, and so I play devil's advocate and look at it from multiple sides of symptomatic peripheries. Whatever it is, extrapolation is exponential and isn't really maybe sensual to physics of moment to moment. We're just people. Moment to moment, we're just relating. Moment to moment, we're just learning. There's got to be a handful times a billion more types of protections at pressures of tolerance in proportion to those simplicities. And so, we get these guises of like, okay, we've propped, or we've inherited props, or there are props available because somebody put them there. And then we're doing our best, clearly, and we're explaining time and momentum. These things are manageable, they're dynamic, but we've got a real good beat on it. One thing is very clear. Maybe there isn't a whole lot of room of graceful fear because we doesn't know what we're dealing with. We doesn't have a handle on any of this stuff. And so, like I said, there's comforts, there's devotions, there's dependencies, there's expectancies, and all sorts of time expectancies. Maybe all of these vitalities, quote, maybe there are tolerations or people or realities that might look at these things and say, these are vitality concerns at pressures moving forward, always moving forward. Usually, almost always. The vitality realities. Maybe all of those vitality realities maybe isn't sensual to the Band-Aid, maybe isn't sensual to pneumonia, maybe isn't sensual to case by case. And so, pressure by pressure, moment by moment, phase of time or realizement in situation, there isn't going likely to be an all-access, capabilized, totally forever tolerant index for every potentiated situation all the time at every time that anybody can participate in. That's where you start. Not like as a person, but as a framer of relevance of contractual capability. So you might say, scenario depending, certainties of involvement become and remain defined in proportion to oncology. So as you look at mechanics, it's clear that to mechanize certain phases or momentums, there are clearly requirements and pedigrees of relationship or concern or focus in proportion to frames of time. And so maybe this is baseboard dynamical, maybe feels or seems very simple to anyone at any point in time. It's not. Definitely isn't. Because anybody who purveys systemic oncology or purveys gaps of thought in proportion to systems of dynamic intricacy, the plannings or the wants or the needs, whether it be personal, investment, social, survival, vital, oncological, time, all of these scenarios have maybe approaching thousands or millions or billions or more specificities without scenario. Specificities just of who needs to learn what, when, and where to be able to hold applicable knowledge or data to apply to scenario at time. Thousands to millions to billions or more relative to streams of time. And so the sentiment of responsibility, who knows what it is? The sentiment of success, who knows what it is? The sentiment of this time or that time or another time or never time are opportune or desired or prohibited for certain things at certain places, for certain groups or certain types or certain things or certain realities. Who knows? And it's the same thing. An index about these things clearly isn't going to be straightforward and maybe even simple for every scenario there is on every plane of survival or existence. And so there's a lot of very, very, very important decisions that occur in proportion to those types of dynamics of potentiate. Not only what if somebody cares to try and see that problem state, or what if somebody is an individual that possesses experience in those types of problem states, what can they do? What can they be? What can they have? What should they not need to worry about? Millions of questions. There's a lot of very important decisions that happen in proportion to that type of thing, in that problem state, in that desire state, because the frames of potentiate, navigability, and survival are all maybe or maybe not going to succeed or fail to be displaced by one another. And so the simplicity of just doing what we're doing the best we could, that is also a Band-Aid. It's a very serious Band-Aid, because you really have to look through time at inclination to approach being a variable existing as a variable or designing a variable about those planes of dependency. So there's a lot of fall off cliffs of integrity in proportion to mapping and actualization of pressure. Because maybe I'm aware I do a lot. I see and I impact a lot. I know it. It's not a lie, it's true. I impact a lot because I protect planes of decisions in proportion to some of these statements on this record. I do that. I know that I do that. But as big or as awesome or as correct or as friendly or as capable as I ever may be, to feel that there's a time I'm being acknowledged. Somebody might relate to my sympathies. Somebody might not need corrected because they're doing things correctly, or they're doing things the right way, or they're within toleration, or they're friendly. They isn't an enemy. They isn't attempting to destroy things, for instance. They're sympathizing with the things that I am and the things I work on and the type of focuses I care about. It's not simple, because at the same exact framing, there's any amount of utilities of measure at variable creation in proportion to efforts to try and impact near to doing our best. Because decisions on these planes, maybe they don't happen all the time. Maybe they're difficult to see. Maybe holding an emotion or a survival ethic about any of them are very difficult in proportion to time or advances or phasings of survival. It's maybe very difficult to sentimentalize with intellectual aspects of those types of decisions. And so who knows how anybody's going to feel whenever they think about that, and there isn't anybody there thinking about it. There isn't anybody there capable of intellectually engaging with those things. Who knows how they're going to feel? Who knows how it's going to be cared about? Who knows who's going to attempt to create variables in these places? So, a prolific U-turn at the epicenter of DT log, you might find, must be propped rather strictly, rather ginormously, and probably very heavily. So, as social or as societal or civilized as any of us might ever be or feel or see, our together, our plane of together, our time together, our normalcy together. Doesn't matter if I'm in space or in the most protected shell of time. The heaviness of the concept actual at prop, at concern of any of these facets of decision making is incredibly strict. It's incredibly strict. It just means as normal as we might feel to be holding a pressure, as normal as we might feel to be doing the right thing, or as great as we might feel to see our successes in our performances, near to stuff like this, there's maybe very strict, maybe very, very heavy propping, retainer, variable weights in proportion to absences of intellect or absences of sympathy or absences of sensuality or concern or care factor. Maybe very, 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 very heavy variables. And so at this time I isn't going to attempt to demonstrate an ethic about this. Might be wise because the concern maybe can be treated very similarly to an isn't real in time at cross lattice and labeling of effect, because frankly, any individual in time is going to fail to have support to seeing or finding or learning of these concerns in time if there aren't simple cross-lattice labels constructed in proportion to those types of specificities. And so that has to be the last thing that is a Band-Aid. That can't be a Band-Aid. That has to be a cruciality, vitality of labeling at case scenario in proportion to specificity pressures in proportion to ethic, where the labeling, I mean, maybe I cross-lattice it and label it, and I have a splay in a catalog somewhere that says, okay, well, this was the pressure, this was the real, this was the actual. It simply isn't a Band-Aid. And its relationship to solar panel ethic maybe has to be studied forever. Maybe has to be cataloged forever. And so my vantage to capably execute Band-Aid at cross-lattice of heavy in proportion to solar panel is maybe one of the most heavy variable realities of binning in time. And so maybe approaching zero forces have any forever respect of this. Who knows what type of variables or conversations or influences they will ever try and have about this. And maybe this is precisely why, as everybody's maybe feeling or pulsating normal vibes near to the hand washing U-turn at we're doing our best, maybe that's precisely why I know there's nothing normal about it. There is absolutely nothing maybe forever about it, and maybe absolutely nothing dependable about it whatsoever. I maybe know that the entire duration, the entire time, the entire position, and who knows how my attitude or sentiment is going to factor into time. Who really knows? The bottom line here is that's going to be cataloged forever. Forever. And so these precise potentiates of more decision, impactful decision, these precisions clearly have a toll and a cost on limit of visitation of forever banking, because the variable dimensions are forever significant. They're forever impactful, and they're maybe forever requiring protection and elimination of caustic variable in proportion to those protections. And so the sentiment, the necessity, the posturing, the propping, the tolerations, these are all definitely areas of forethought that have been considered and might forever get considered someday, very heavily, very seriously, and certainly in proportion to bounds of time and pressure. What is maybe the biggest problem of that known state is that learning happens all the time, and it's uncertain in proportion to necessity how much learning is serving a good in proportion to those aspects of clarity of banking, the aspects of clarity of Band-Aid. And I probably, as someone that appreciates that, find it to be a-okay that there maybe isn't a whole lot of explanative ever, and there maybe isn't a whole lot of ability to access or influence that ever in proportion to time. I maybe think that's a-okay, because it really takes a lot of focus, definitely, and attention to aspects of detail of time maneuvering and pressures of vitality to ever even maybe attempt to contemplate or look at the variables in those dimensions, let alone actually spend time caring about the dimensions in real time with anybody that exists that depends on those variables. And so, not to mention,
all the potentiates of problem that might ever happen because somebody thinks that they're going to go ahead and grow up to dominate those variables, or they're going to go ahead and do things to claim those aspects of time to themselves. Sometimes there's pressures that are protected that it isn't anybody's fault. They're going to get protected. And maybe it's just always unclear what about who is being impacted in proportion to the utilities. And maybe I doesn't like a whole lot of scholarship on those dimensions. Maybe I doesn't like a whole lot of discussion about those dimensions. And yet, I can't say, I'm not going to claim that I advocate there being none, or it being impossible, or it being always coming with some sort of ramification that deletes the precept. I'm not going to say that, but it's clear that there's definitely a lot of concerns at simplicities of expansionary variable state that have been considered in time, and maybe forever will be considered in time, in proportion to potentials of growth of inhibitory relations in proportion to dependable states of interplay of forces of utility of time. But I just know that there isn't maybe an incredible amount of surviving, living, or existing ethic about some of these planes at any time in proportion to maybe large system dynamics, vast system dynamics. I know there probably isn't a whole lot of sentiment existing or surviving or feeling about those specificities at any point in time. So, in that way, there maybe isn't a place to grab or blame or attack for such variable positionings. Maybe the focus on those realities isn't belligerently saturating into space at unknown rates at any point in time, and maybe the forces that have to deal and work and protect and be to thank and responsible for any other number of system interplays won't have to be arguing or having dementia about these aspects of decision in proportion to time. So moral of the story here is that there's a lot of interplay that occurs with dynamics, and a lot of experiential knowing in proportion to these things might not always be the greatest news, might not always be the happiest place to party, and certainly might not ever be the safest place to try and make your own or design variables in proportion to, simply just because it's something that's been on the table. It's something that's come across the radar. And so when I think about just the bland data of moment to moment this week, I think there's a lot of variables in charge of maintaining charge dependency in proportion to normification of not needing to remedy the folks that are involved with preserving the time or preserving the information or preserving their learning. I see a lot of room to not have to remedy because of good decisions that happen near to concerns of these types of planes. That's what I see. And theories of dependent dimension specificity is another hot subject in proportion to those sympathies, because in design of variables, platforms, structure, maybe geography, maybe system, maybe a billboard, maybe a frame, maybe an institution, maybe any number of facets. Dimensional concern in proportion to non-remedy necessity. Every decision impacts every plane of survival forever. Every decision impacts runaway planes and trains in proportion to faith in variables. So, a language is something. A syntax is something. They're crucial, they're important, but they're probably not going to be very soft or cozy or long-term if decisions about dimensions near to some of these concerns aren't very much co-opted, faith-filled, and instrumentized in proportion to lack of instrument, incapacity to instrument. And so the bigness of variable specificity of study of these dimensions over long courses of time yields to variable intricacy in non-logical banking that doesn't require oversight to route variables at a frame where maybe one idea through a filter, because of those variable framings, travels through 1,000 dimensions of interpretive rhythm and system, and it isn't that there's an output, but there's sensualities that are capable of occurring in proportion to the frames of those static variable routings in proportion to time. And so maybe walls have and hold ethics. Maybe momentary realities or escalations of scenario have feedback loops that aren't in anybody's hands depending on scenario. And so it's unclear how much ethic exists when the potentiates are understood at a frame, because this whole conversation is vital forever, but the understandings of those types of variables is always impacting forever and maybe doesn't have intellectual decision making about this conversation at a time. And so what would happen if I didn't prop a lot in proportion to those variables is somebody would be seen as hiding. Somebody would feel sensation of unresponsible at incredible pressures of time if there weren't things propped near to these things, if there weren't ways of relating to specificity of time. I'm saying the whole hand over hand or band-aid or doing the best we can, there's maybe any number of real utilities, existent states, and senses of existing and knowing and what you're doing. There's maybe a lot of this, but it isn't as simple as blind faith might exact in proportion to time because of things that have been non-instrumentated in proportion to these types of pressures. And so when I think about the Band-Aid and investment and devil's advocate and capitalization, I doesn't think about blame. I'm not thinking about blame. I'm not thinking about evil. I'm thinking about positions of data relationship that have very difficult realities to curbate. It's not very simple for someone to say, aha, I see what you're seeing, I know what you're thinking, slow down for a second. Or, hey, it's okay, he doesn't have to make that call right now. Some of these variable interplays might become very difficult. And so it's clear there has to be a lot of propping. There has to be a lot of apathy of these things. And there maybe should be that as these things are reaching criticalities or people are seeing or learning in the sensation of, okay, well, he's really up there. This isn't a backwards scenario happening on a skiff in the middle of violent, turbulent seas. This is a pressure that has been considered for incredibly long times ago, incredibly futuresome times from now. And I don't know how good it is for someone to say to themselves, what I am today isn't about me, isn't about the future, and isn't about yesterday. I'm existing in an incredibly invested in time in proportion to certainty of safety, of capability to be aware. But who knows what awareness I'm going to have? Who knows how aware I'm going to be? Who knows how ethic I'm going to feel or demonstrate about it? And that's the point. The more investment and certainty there is into problematic variable states such as these proppings, the more cushion, not just you, the more cushion everybody might have to deal or respond to specificity in time without having to suffer any number of variable consequences. And so these are planes someone might be considering in proportion to looking at time, variable success, relationship success. Who knows how much of a parent? Who knows how much of a creator? Who knows how much of a yes, we very much are your parents and creators these things might have, these people might have. Who knows what they're going to have? But you know, the more prop, the more discipline, the more lax of variable finality that anybody is capable of exacting, the more cushion everybody's going to have in proportion to those utilities, in proportion to those realities. We isn't brand new. Today isn't brand new. It isn't the first time we've ever been to the basketball court. Okay? But nobody is the freaking pro of all time right now. Nobody is the absolute master of everybody through these things. There's a lot of cushion. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of sensation. There's a lot of time investment. That's what's known. That's what's true. Are there forces that are sharp and Band-Aid quality ready and spectrum magnates and probably capable of flipping your lid at the drop of a hat? You betcha. But there's more cushion today than maybe there's ever been before at a pressure like this. That's what's known. And so, catalog of forever when there's more cushion one day than there's ever been before about a problem state involving maybe everybody. What's the important reality? Is it getting that cushion to work for you? Is it getting anyone to hold all the together sentiments together for you? Or are there very faint vibrational faiths of these derivatives that might be more of a reminder of staying or remaining ethical, or staying or remaining tender, or being or wanting to be of spirit, or to be of a goodness, or to be of a quality that isn't being touched, or to know that maybe this is too much information for just about anybody sometimes, because the sentiments of the way you have to look at things or feel about things, these aren't easy relationships to answer for, to hold responsibility of, and explain dimensions of ethic or gravities of choice decision making about. It isn't easy. It might be common. It might be prescribed. It might be actually very much intellectualized or think prudent, but the reality is they're not easy. They isn't easy at all. No matter where you are, what you're doing, I do love you, and I care about you, and I'm thinking about you in this discussion. I'm thinking of you very fondly and very softly, but these dimensions of variable dynamics, they're incredibly strict, they're incredibly heavy, and they're incredibly impactful of forces in time, especially whenever there are variables of distinction or specificity of necessity happening in time. And so that's what I'll say here and now, maybe only, about fame of vitality, fame of long-awaited pressure resoluteness. I'm thinking and feeling and speaking very fondly, and I pray and hope for the best with everybody. And I'm confident that safety of survival in proportion to these dimensions should forever be possible. But at this time, I'm not going to excuse or explain anybody's behavior that could ever be happening in proportion to these dimensions. And so that's how I'm going to leave it. And once again, I do love you, and I care about you, and that's what I do every day.